there were record labels that were trying to find the next possible Eminem. There was so many talented rappers that never were able to work it out, never got deals, never got support. I got some feelers out from Def Jam and Atlantic Records. So I remember sending them a collection of my material, and it was very off the wall stuff. And I was like, this is what you did to me. I was like, take it or leave it, you know?
Peace, everybody. What's going down? It is the No Pain, No Game podcast. I have a very special guest. I say that all the time, and I always mean it. But today, this is a specialer guest because this is not a guest that I anticipated even having on here. Sage Francis, one of my top 10 rappers. Good morning. Appreciate you being on here, especially with your schedule.
Hey, thank you. Well, no, it's good now. Now that I'm back home. Wonderful introduction, by the way. Thank you. I didn't really know you liked my raps. I thought you just, felt comfortable in my presence. That's enough for me.
I absolutely do not feel comfortable in your presence.
Every time I'm around you, though, you're really lounging and you got to, you
exhausted, man.
Yeah, you're laying on a couch. You're staying hydrated. You might have like one dumbbell hanging by your side in case you get the energy to start lifting. I forgot what you asked now, but yeah, I'm good. So now that I'm back home, it's like suddenly there's this tons of podcasts I've been jumping on. I'm like, yeah, I got an hour to talk. That's good. It'll give me it kind of resets me in certain ways. It breaks me from my regular pattern, which is pretty good for in my household where I'm just, if I'm not doing this, I'll be washing dishes. I'm just freaking out about something else. And yeah, so thank you for having me on. I must have missed that you were doing this podcast. I try to stay on top of stuff like that, but I didn't really know like what kind of vibe you go with on this thing, or it's just regular old chat, or you try to get into something specific.
It's mostly culinary, but today we're making an exception. So that
is it really?
No, it's music business. This is you're the right fit for this, especially giving some of your tweets. But yeah, just in general, how long would you say on average every year do you tour?
Not anymore, hardly anymore now. It took over 3 years before I started doing shows again after the pandemic. And then I did 9 shows this year, I think, maybe a little bit more. Nothing that would approach what I would call a tour. 3 shows in a row is where I was capping it off at. The major issue with me now is that I'm not comfortable being away from home for too long because of my family. I've got my wife and kids. My son is about to turn 3 years old. And on the last trip that I did, I went overseas. That's the furthest I've been away since he was born, and the longest I'd been away. And it really affects me, and I fear that it affects him. More importantly, that it affects him. I don't want that. I don't want him feeling like I can just disappear for 2 weeks at a time, and he doesn't really understand what that's about. And then we do video chats. Of course, that's cool, but that's a poor substitute for being around and playing with them and, helping his development and everything and just loving him. Yeah. So that's where I'm at now. I don't know what I can do. Next year, I want to release a solo album. Every time I've released a solo album, it was always in conjunction with a full tour to support it. And that's the obvious thing you're supposed to do. And it's something I won't be doing. So it's really up in the air as for what I'm going to be doing. I'm just I want to pick weekend dates if possible. If I'm privileged enough to knock those out and get good paydays out of a Thursday through Sunday type deal in various territories, that's what I'm going to aim for. I think it's possible, but yeah, we'll see what happens when we cross that bridge.
Because prior to the pandemic, I mean, a lot has changed for you in the last 3 years since the announcement of COVID. And prior to that, you were touring, what would you say, like a third of the year? You were going on the hardcore grinded out style tours.
Yes, I mean, starting in 2000, it was almost like a nonstop touring. It was nonstop touring for me, and there were a couple breaks there in between. But I would always keep doing one-offs here and there. There was nothing to keep me home. There was no anchors for me. I just kind of was always looking for reasons to get away and do something to make money and come back and, do my thing. But the last heavy touring I did was with the Epic Beardmen, the group that I had with B. Dolan. So we did grind it out with the Epic Beardmen material, almost starting from square one again. It was like we weren't going off of any well-established name or fan base. Of course, some of our own fans came out, or a lot of our own fans came out to those shows, but not nearly as much as who would come out to a Sage Francis show or maybe even a B. Dolan show. So yeah, it was weird being that late in my career, being as old as I was, and then showing up to a crowd that sometimes literally there was 2 people in the crowd. That's bugged out. It's bugged out. It's like, God damn, we fucked up. We did something. Like, it was maybe who we worked with, who the person who booked the show, the promoter of the show, the venue, whatever it was, because we were playing smaller spots, but had always expected that through word of mouth and our outreach on the socials that people would show up just for the mere fact that they know it's going to be a dope show. Because if you've seen either of us perform live, it's always worth witnessing, and experiencing. That's our lot in life. So, it got rugged and hardcore for sure on those. And I think both of us toward the end of it were like, you know what, we gave this a good college try, and now we have to figure something else out.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people won't ever touch on the not so glamorous parts of touring, and the not so glamorous parts of touring are the majority of I mean, I'm not saying it's terrible, but
it sucks. It does suck. It's everyone. Check out any artist who tours. Look at their face. Look at read their energy, man. Like, check them out the morning after, if you're at a diner, and just read the room. And when I said 2 people showed up, that specifically was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which I may never have had a great crowd at, but I definitely had good shows there before. Not like the most of the shows were actually really well attended and did great, but still, in all, it was hard. And just the constant energy drain and the constant driving and carrying boxes and constant small talk. It's like all of that starts to really pile up and tear you down in a weird, unexpected way. Unless you've done it, you don't really understand how that affects a person.
No, you really don't. Because when I was a fan and not a touring artist, I would show up to these tour dates, and I'd expect the artist to be happy to see me because, hey, I showed up, I got a ticket.
Yeah, you did your part, right?
Yeah, why can't we talk for an hour afterwards? Why do you look like you're trying to leave here? And then
I went out. I've encountered that so many times. I've done my very best to subvert that and avoid that. Now I don't, like, I show up if it's not a solo show where I'm selling my own merch, or I have to, because that's a good way to interact with people. I feel like it's transactional, and at least you're making money off of the small talk. Otherwise, you're just saying the same thing over and over to a bunch of people, and it's a conversation for you that goes nowhere. And yeah, that sucks. But
it's a lot of giving and not getting energy back.
Yeah,
you're already half dead from the drive and the performance.
Yeah, I feel like I've built a good armor. I've built a good antisocial armor. People can read it on me pretty quickly, where they're like, "Oh, he doesn't want to go out after," because I just go, "Nope," right away. I was like, "Nope, I'm trying to get back to my hotel. I want to sleep as soon as possible and get home safely." That is basically my mission right now, and they respect it. I think people who follow me, at least they see what I post online about my family life and how much that means to me, and they don't see me trying to wild out. I'm not a party cat. I never have been, so it's not to be expected from Uncle Sage.
Yeah, I guess some people don't really respect you. Like, you sure you don't want to take X or whatever? And it's like, nah,
Oh, dag! I never got offered
that's
X.
um.
You mean Twitter, right?
I was never offered Twitter X either. I just woke up and it was there. So you recently tweeted, and this was really kind of the heart of. I was like, why didn't I ever just reach out to Sage about this podcast? Your tweet said the following: I've never been considered mainstream, right? Asking in earnest, like most people have no idea who I am. Yet I've lived off my music since 1999. It's not about being commercially viable. Sometimes it's just about being unique, consistent, reliable, and not a total piece of shit. That tweet struck me because, you hear this narrative all the time that there's this fame binary in the music business. Either you're famous or you're not shit. Like you're Drake or you're broke. And reality is that it's this very wide spectrum of success, and a lot of that is subjective. But I guess let's go back to 99. What was the turning point for you when rap became your job?
After I had won this Super Bowl battle in Boston, my name started to spread a bit, and Napster was really big at the time, so people could search my name on Napster and see whatever files were available, which weren't many, but I did have a vinyl out under the name Nonprofits at the time. So that vinyl, those songs, and other stuff I had released, or just radio recordings of mine. So people just started to stockpile random recordings and become familiar with my style and my voice. And then I started getting show offers outside of my general region. So I grew up in Rhode Island, and most of our shows would happen in Rhode Island or Boston, maybe New York, but not really. And then I was getting offers for shows in Chicago and Arizona. And man, in 1999, I played Sweden. Like, they flew me out on the strength of the Nonprofits 12-inch, which is 2 songs, or maybe it was 3, but regardless, it just was wild. Like, that was outside of my understanding. I, never really expected anything like that. And so the fan base was just popping up all over the place. And the fact that I would be able to travel to these places and get paid, come home, and be able to pay rent that month made me look at my job at Ben & Jerry's like, I don't know if I need to stick around here anymore. And they were always good with me leaving whenever I needed to, right? Like, that was a cool part of the job. It wasn't a well-paying job, but it was flexible, and that's what I needed as a music or a touring artist, not even touring at the time, just taking random shows. But yeah, so then when I stockpiled enough cash, which would have paid my rent for the next following maybe 4 months, that's when I decided I don't need to do this job anymore. I'm going to focus totally on the music stuff. And that had to be late 99. I can't totally remember the dates, but yeah, that's just when I stopped working for anyone else. And moving forward, it was all Sage Francis and Strange Famous Records. And it really like blossomed from there in major ways, because the year after I won the Scribble Jam battle, which was really huge, the internet had grown larger at that point. My name was getting brought up on all the message boards, and I was selling stuff through my website, and people could I don't even know if I had a proper website. It might have just been the message board at the time. So we had the Nonprofits message board, and I listed products I had available, and I told people to print out this sheet, mark off what you want, put cash in the envelope, send it to me. And that's how I started making that money through the mail. Outside of shows, I was making money through the mail. And we continue to do that to this day. I mean, people don't send cash anymore, but they're more than welcome to do so. But yeah, those Strange Famous web stores still going hard and heavy. And that's how we exist as a record label in 2023.
So what?
And the touring, obviously, you got like the
yeah.
I think it was 2000, maybe. Well, in 2000, might have been late 1999. Atmosphere took me on one of their very first, I think it was their first tour on the Northeast or our region, and asked me to hop on. So I did those shows with them and got in good favor with Slug and Idea and Jaybird, the whole crew. And then there was the Anti-Conquistador tour maybe that was 2001 or 2000, but that was my first full national tour, and that was a rugged tour, and Soul was at the helm, sort of. Everyone in that van was just brand new to the whole experience, so it was our first time experiencing all this stuff. Not a great paying tour, but very good for the experience. And then I followed that up with another national Atmosphere tour with Idea and Abilities, and that was huge for me. All of this was just steps upon steps and getting bigger and bigger in a short time frame, and me trying to stay on top of it all while putting together mixtapes so that I could have something to sell at the show, which was the impetus for the Sick of Waiting mixtape that I first put out in '99. And then
I was going to ask you about that series.
Yeah, because the fact that I didn't have an official album out, but I was doing all these shows and getting in front of a lot of people, and I knew I had a ton of material that could be enjoyed, but it wasn't a studio album. It just was a collection of songs. I didn't want to, or it was a collection of recordings, I should say. So, and with varying quality, like some of it just awful quality, but I say the words right on it. You know, like the fact that like I was so lyric based and I was so word based that to me, that's what mattered most. And for a lot of my fans, that's what mattered most. So they supported it. And, those were the glory days as far as merchandise is concerned for us, where you could make these tapes and CDs for $1 or $2 a pop, sell them for $10. That's a great profit margin. And it was tough to stay in stock. That was my biggest problem, was actually having enough money to make enough in order to sell at all the shows that I was playing.
I mean, that sounds like a crazy convergence of really auspicious moments, because so you win Scribble Jam, and that's around the time when it's like all eyes are on Scribble Jam for a lot of reasons. But did you get like residual Eminem attention? Because that was all happening around 99, 98, right?
Yeah. So there were record labels that were definitely trying to find the next possible Eminem, whatever would be something that followed a similar formula. They knew that he was going to blow. We all knew he was going to blow up big time with getting the co-sign by Dr. Dre, and just having that machine behind him, and him being as talented as he was. And, you know, with all those things in play, him being the great white hype and actually being able to follow through was a huge deal. But he was far from the only talented white artist in the underground hip hop scene. Everyone who had feelers out knew that. So they started actually, I think, locking up white rappers, tying them into deals and shelving their albums, or experimenting and seeing what they could get away with, or how they could shape these artists. And I think they probably found a lot of them weren't malleable. You couldn't turn them into what you wanted to turn them into. And especially with me, when I got some feelers out from Def Jam and Atlantic Records, and for me, Def Jam, that perked me up. I was like, that, you know, like that's the label I grew up on. You know, that meant a lot to me. But at that point, it wasn't the same Def Jam. They didn't have the same intentions. It wasn't run by the same, you know, people or in the same way. So I remember sending them a collection of my material, and it was very off the wall stuff. And I wrote a note. And I was like, this is what you did to me. I was like, take it or leave it, you know. And I never heard back from them after that. But yeah, there was, and thankfully Epitaph, right around the same time, Epitaph Records, who was just like a pop punk label, or more punk and pop punk, but they saw a similarity with what was happening in the hip hop scene with what happened to the punk scene, which made punk get so huge and on the radio and in shopping malls. And they just saw that we had a fervent fan base. We didn't have proper distribution. We didn't have any big machines behind us. except for the internet and Napster and file sharing and these message boards that were just causing a stir. And Andy Culkin from Epitaph, the president of the record label, approached me as a fan and said, he wanted to sign me. And my interaction with him was the first time I felt like, oh, he's going to let me do whatever I want. Like he's a fan of what I'm doing. He knows I know what I'm doing. It's like, I have a purpose. I have a vision. I want to follow it. And that's all it's going to be. And he's there to help support that because he sees I already have a fan base. He knows once they get the record in all the stores, there's going to be like my fans from all across the globe are going to snatch it up. And I think that proven was with the Personal Journals album on Anticon. So after I won Scribble Jam, they decided, oh, okay, well, it would make total sense to sign Sage Francis. Some of them didn't really trust me or like me, I don't think. Others, like Soul, championed me probably. And that turned out to be the best-selling record on Anticon by far. And it was like, wow, like this cat has carved out a huge fan base for himself, and we're reaping the benefits of it now because we're actually able to service the audience. So Epitaph saw that as well. They stepped it up just one more notch and gave me broader access to an audience that didn't even, like, a lot of the people didn't even know who I was. They put me on a punk rock compilation. And to this day, people tell me that they discovered my music through that punk rock compilation. It's wild. 2023, I'm still playing shows and people will approach me at the merch booth and like, yo, I heard you on Punkorama 09 or 9, whatever number it was. It was like, and like, that was my first like step into hip hop. I didn't know anything about it until I heard that song. It was like, wow, let me check out more stuff that might be like this. So those were all big moves, big steps in a very short time frame in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I feel like that was the right time for that crossover audience. And then also, I'm just thinking about everything that's going on. So the Scribble Jam, there's the rise of Anticon, there's the rise of Rhyme Sayers Entertainment, there's the...
Oh, Def Jux is in the mix as well.
Def Jux is in the mix. Kind of the whole indie hip hop craze, where there's now this critical mass of unsigned or independent artists figuring out how to reach fans, the internet, all that's happening. And obviously there's more happening, but you're at kind of the crossroads of all of that. And then also, I didn't realize, did you go to the same college that Master Ace graduated from?
URI, yeah, but it was never mentioned, and I've only, I don't really know anything about it.
Okay, but that's cool though, right? Like,
it is, but it was like Master a myth when I was going there. It was like, hey, Master Ace went here. I was like, really? Like, because how come more people don't know about that? And then maybe 2 or 3 years ago, the URI, they have like a magazine that they released and he was on the cover of it. I was like, oh wow, this is confirmation you really did go to URI. It's wild. Yeah. But that didn't happen. That was not like a realistic thing. Like it just was a rumor floating around during the time when I was going there.
That's funny because you hear about that here, and well, at my college, there are a couple famous people that went. I'm like, no, there are 50,000 students here at any given moment where I'm never going to run into any of them. Yeah. So I want to pick up on something that you said. So it was your proof of concept that helped you stand out from, I think, a lot of the other artists that, I don't know if you can hear a cat howling. Baby, the door's open. Oh gosh.
Come on in, baby girl.
She's just sitting there looking at an open door and howling because I guess I don't know what she expects me to do. I'll figure it out when this is done.
I like it. I like that noise. Let's keep it.
Can you hear it though?
I thought it was a door creaking.